Have you ever wondered what happens when you type google.com to the browser? No, we don't have time for all these things. Google, just give us the web page that we have requested. I know that we don't have time for all these things, but this is one of the most common interview questions that can be asked to any IT professionals, whether he's a fresher or an experienced IT professional like me. So we better make our concepts clear about this question. So in this video, we will explore the step-by-step process that takes place when we enter google.com or any other URL to the browser. Now I have divided this video into 5 different sections. The first one is understanding the URL. The second is DNS resolution. Third is initiating the request from client to server. Fourth one is server-side processing. And finally, fifth one is displaying the google.com web page to your browser. Now the first one is URL. URL basically stands for Uniform Resource Locator, which can be divided into 3 different parts. The first one is the protocol that it uses. The second is the domain it carries. And the third is the path which it has to follow. Now the first thing is the protocol that it uses. So the protocol, when we type google.com in our browser, you can see that it serves using HTTPS. So how the browser understands that it has to follow HTTPS and not HTTP protocol? Now there comes a concept which 95% of IT professionals do not understand, which is HSTS. HSTS basically stands for HTTP Strict Transport Security. You can think of HSTS as a directory which browser maintains, where it contains a list of domains. And if the domain is available in this directory, then it will be served using HTTPS protocol. If not, it will be served using HTTP protocol. Now the second section is DNS resolution. So DNS stands for Domain Name System. You can think of DNS as the database where it stores the domain name and its corresponding IP address. For example, when you have to call to any of your friend, suppose you have to call to your friend Rahul, then you go to your phone, you open the phone book, you search for your friend's name and you initiate the call. But when you call, your phone does not call the name Rahul, but it calls the phone number that is linked with the name Rahul. Similarly, when you initiate any request on internet, the request does not go to the domain name, but it goes to the physical IP address that is linked with the domain name. And to identify the address of the corresponding domain name is done using DNS. So DNS basically helps us to get the IP address of google.com, which is available on internet, and every domain on internet has a unique IP address. Now after identifying the correct IP address of google.com server, the next step is to establish a connection between your machine and google.com server. Now this connection type is known as TCP, which stands for Transmission Control Protocol. And this entire process is known as handshaking. Now after the connection is established between your machine and google.com server, your browser sends a GET request. Your browser basically sends a HTTP GET request to the google.com server. Now if you are not behind any firewall or security, your request will be sent from your browser to the google.com load balancer, which in turn sends the request to google.com server. Now after the server has received the request from the browser, it will send the request to the corresponding request handler for handling it. Now, the request handler basically processes the request. It does a lot of things behind the scene. And finally, it creates a HTML document that needs to be sent to the browser. Finally, the server sends that HTML response to the browser. Now, after this, the browser will receive the response from the server. After receiving the response, it interprets HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. After interpreting it, it will create a complete web page. This complete web page will be used by browser to render it, and you will be able to see google.com on your screen. So in this video, we understood about URL, DNS resolution, initiating the request from client to server, TCP connection, server-side processing, sending back the response from server to client, displaying the response onto your browser. Thanks for watching. Happy coding.